So good to see you here, Julia.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure.
You were in solitary confinement in prison for 6 months. Tell me about those days.
They were a journey. And I believe that everyone has the grace for their own story. And I think I really had to access that constantly. And as I went through the days, you went through every human feeling, despair, days when you felt I can't even move, I can't get up, everything's black, days when you had this new energy, I'm going to serve my captors, I'm going to serve the investigators, I'm going to serve the guards, you know, all of these kinds of things. God just came closer. I knew his voice before I went in. It wasn't like I suddenly started a relationship with him then. And I was really thankful that I started when I was young and I got to know him because he had a lot to pull out of the well. And then he had a lot to add to the well. And that was beautiful. So he took out everything that was already in me that I'd studied and learned, and he used it in the present situation. And then he just poured in these beautiful things. I was like, oh God, you were saving gifts for me for that time. And I never knew that. And they were beautiful, beautiful gifts. So they were intimate moments with him. They were opportunities to serve him.
You were in, when I say you were in solitary, you weren't really solitary. You had 2 guards with you in the room, right, at all times.
Yeah, the way they do it is they post 2 guards sitting in a room with you. So you're in the room with my bathroom was in the room, so it was quite embarrassing. And the guards are sitting there with little notebooks, and they have to write down everything you do. And they aren't supposed to talk to you or interact with you, but I thought, okay, God, you've got someone watching a Christian 24/7, and I really want to represent you. And I didn't always feel like I did a good job of representing him. But I thought, wow, it's immersion for them. And they rotated every 8 hours, and I felt like that about the guards. And I was really thankful I loved China so much because the guards just turned into children to me, and the interrogators turned into people I would have had over for dinner. And when they felt that love through me, and that was from God, it changed the situation. And I saw them just as an opportunity that God gave me to just love on people in a whole different context. And when he says love your enemies and do good to them that harm you, it's not like, oh, I gotta love my enemies. It's something beautiful and natural and supernatural mixed together out of the offering of your life.
Tell me about some of the dark moments, because you really did have some moments where you felt like you couldn't go on.
Yeah, because I can see it because in the back of my Bible, I marked in, first I scratched with my fingernail, then I marked it with pencil, then I traced over it when I had pen for writing all these hundreds of pages of confessions. And I wrote something to be thankful for every day. But there were days when I just colored it completely, I put a black. And that was just like a day I could not just get up, I couldn't move. And then I was like, okay, God, I thank you for black. You know, and I think that there was a moment, and I think if you flip back to the page just before that, I figured if they let me keep anything, they'll let me keep this word, which is so precious.
Okay, at the end you wrote this, yes.
And I wrote this on one of my darkest days, which was November 17th, which was 3.5 months into the experience, and in the front you can see I documented it, and I said at that time the human part of you starts to despair, and you have to keep renewing it with the word and the spirit, and you get a renewed appreciation for the single tiny act of kindness. And so I had written that there. And then I was just, God, I can't float anymore. They were just like hammering me, three investigators, 6 hours a day, just hammering me with questions. I was like, let them ask about Jesus and not about spying, because I just can't do it. And my mind was just all night trying to think of answers. And really God just gave me this. And so I wrote it down, and just talking about I was having this rush of sadness. No matter what I said and did, it was overtaking me because my heart was just too sad. And then I heard this like gentle whisper of the Holy Spirit, and he just said, just turn over and float. And before that he had said, you know, just talking to me about walking on water. And when he said just turn over and float, I thought, that is the perfect thing. He didn't say get up and sing songs. He didn't say run around and serve your neighbor. He just said turn over and float. And I was like, okay, I was on the bed like upside down, facing down, and I just turned over, and I thought, he's so gentle. He knows right where I am and what I can do. And I just turned over and then actually just thought, floating is actually kind of fun. And even though it was just symbolic, then after that, of course, I could stand up and I sang again and I just, did all those things. And I often danced and sang in the room and had energy to do that. But when I didn't, I thought, wow, God knows. And he just says, turn over and float.
I know there's people watching right now who feel like they are in prison, that they're in situations they can't get out of, sometimes of their own making, sometimes not of their anything to do with them. What would you say to them about a key, how they can get through?
I'd say first, make sure you're going to the right people for help, because God is the first person to go to for help. Not your friends, not your Christian friends, not your neighbors, not your doctors. I'm not saying don't go to them, but don't go to them as your first resource. This is your first resource. God is your first resource. And he has something for your story that's unique to your story. Someone else's story may have had someone else's resources, but it won't have your resources. And if you really believe that God's created you and then partners with you to give you the resources for your story, then you have to go to him first to get them. And as you get them and you work with him on it, he shows you his plan and his design for the worst times in your life.
That has so much weight coming from you who has suffered so much, not just your own self, but even seeing your husband sick, not knowing if you were ever going to see him on earth again. Thank you for coming just to share what you learned in those hard, hard moments.
Pleasure.
We're looking forward to seeing what's next for you. If you are that person that really needs that encouragement, that heard what she said and just wants to know how to apply, or maybe just needs a little encouragement along the way, that's what we're here for. That's why we have prayer lines. Give us a call right now. You don't even have to give your name, but we would love, love, love to walk through this moment in your life with you and try to bring some encouragement. That number, 1-866-273-4444.